Hello friends, it's Kayla. Welcome to a series that's going to be happening for the next like 4 to 6 weeks depending on how you want me to organize this video. But I've seen some of my friends doing videos where they explore their entire TBR, and I get asked all the time to like go through all the books in my closet, or you know, go through like a TBR shelf tour, which I've done in the past. But yeah, we're gonna go through every single book on my TBR shelf. As you can see, it's been emptied off, everything from my closet, and put them into different genres. So this first video is mystery thriller books, and then after this I can either do like 4 episodes, so we can do mystery thrillers, anything SFF, so like fantasy, sci-fi, and horror, and then 1 for contemporary or general fiction, and then 1 for short story collections and nonfiction. But I'm also totally down to split this one up into those 3 categories. 1 for horror, 1 for science fiction, 1 for fantasy, but then they will be shorter, and that'll make the realistic fiction, contemporary, whatever that one's called, way longer than all of the others, because I can't believe how many books I have in that category. So let me know what you think and how you'd like me to do this, so we can do this over 4 weeks or we can do this over 6 weeks. I also don't know yet what or if there needs to be a goal to come out of this video. Part of me, being me, wants to make it into like a challenge or a game, or like somewhere where you can vote on books, and then later I do a follow-up video where I read the titles you upvoted the most, or I unhaul the ones that you think I'll hate, or I try the first chapter of them. But since there are so many videos and so many books, I just don't know how to make that a realistic series to keep up with. So again, if you have any ideas for like where to take this concept, that would be fantastic. I own about 60 mystery thrillers that I want to read, and the first stack is authors I've read from before, so this is easy to explain why I picked them up, because I've read something from this author before. The thing about Taryn Fisher is I've never given her 5 stars, so I just keep picking up her stuff, and now I feel less motivated to read it. But this is The Wrong Family. My first stack is like domestic kind of stories, very much focused on a husband and wife. So in this one, we've got a woman who moves in with a husband and wife, and there's like something going on with the husband and wife, and she finds out all of these secrets. In The End of Her by Sherry Lapina, another author I typically give 4 stars to, so it's like easy to pick them up. But is there a huge motivation to read it? Obviously not. And this one is about a husband and wife, and they have twin daughters. They're struggling, they're really going through it, and then a woman shows up on their door saying that like this man was married before and he actually murdered his wife. And then there's all this blackmail going on. The next one I have is Peter Swanson, The Girl with a Clock for a Heart. I think I've actually DNF'd this before, but I've held on to it. And this one's about a couple. They used to be together like 20 years ago, and now she has re-entered his life, and she might be a murderer, and that's kind of all I know. And then we have Something in the Water by Catherine Steadman, and this is about a couple who are on a honeymoon and they find something in the water. See, the thing about some of these books is like the synopsis is so generic, and like I don't want to read too much about it because I don't want to be spoiled. But then I never pick up the books because I'm like, what even is this about? Then we have Her 3 Lives by Kate Holohan. This one is about a couple. They are fiancés, and she's moving in with his family. He has kids from another marriage, and then he suffers a traumatic brain injury from a break-in, and I think it's like figuring out if one of the women in his life like had something to do with it. As far as my thriller reading life at this point, I'm definitely getting further away from domestic suspense and thrillers. That used to be something I really gravitated towards. I still pick them up, obviously, but they're not like the #1 thing, just about like a husband and wife and like their drama. But if there's one in there that you like, you know, has a really good twist, then let me know, because that's always what I'm looking for. Then I have a stack of ones that are still domestic, more so like family based, so about like children and siblings and motherhood and that type of stuff. So this one is called 6 Weeks to Live by Catherine Mackenzie, and it's about a woman who gets the shocking news that she has a terminal brain tumor and 6 weeks to live. And basically she brings her family all together to spend this time with them, but then she suspects that one of them is poisoning her. Next I have 2 Jillian Macmillans, To Tell You the Truth, which is about this really successful author, and then her husband goes missing, and also decades ago her brother went missing. And it's like, is she responsible, and is she writing books based on her real life? Then I also have The Perfect Girl, which is about a 17-year-old musical prodigy, and she was involved in a crime. Multiple people died. She did her time. Now she's starting a new life, and her mother is determined for like nobody to find out the truth about their family's history. Next up, I have Pieces of Her by Karen Slaughter, which is probably at the top of my anticipated, like if I had to pick something today to read from this stack. I feel like I gravitate towards here, but it takes a lot for me to feel ready to read Karen Slaughter because it's very intense. This is also extremely long. This one is about a woman who thinks she knows everything about her mother, but then she finds out for 30 years her mother has been hiding her real identity, and she has to like uncover secrets, I guess. This one is The Shadows by Alex North. Didn't enjoy my previous Alex North, but the thing about all of these books, except for like one or two, is I bought them all thrifted. I very rarely will pay full price for a mystery or thriller, which is why I can kind of justify picking up like all of these on a whim. To myself, I don't need to justify it to you. Who cares? I'm not like running out of space or anything. I don't mind having lots of books that I'm gonna read one day, but just like my monetary investment in my mystery thrillers is not very high compared to other categories. This one is about a teenager who apparently murdered people, and now 25 years later one of that guy's friends is looking into it, and there's something involved with his mother going through dementia, and I think they're gonna figure out with the work of a detective like what really happened with that murder. And then I have another Peter Swanson. This is an ARC, which is horrifying, but I DNF'd this as well, and I don't know why I held on to it. I think I need to give it another go. Oh, I think it was because it's about a guy who considers his stepmother to be sexy and beautiful. And like, is that something I really need to read? I don't know. But this man finds out that his father died under suspicious circumstances, and then he goes back to his hometown and he's like into his stepmother, but then there's another woman in his life and they're like competing for his attention or something. I don't know. Let me know if that's good. Okay, and then this stack is more like friendship, I think. Mysteries as opposed to family ones. So we have a CJ Tudor, The Hiding Place. So this is another story of a guy returning to his hometown, which is definitely something that makes me pick up a book. He's living in an abandoned cottage, which was once the site of a gruesome murder. He has a former friend trying to drive him out of town. There is a local mine where mysterious things happened. So that's that. Then I have a John Mars, What Lies Between Us, which I think is also pretty near the top of if I had to choose which ones to read next, I'd pick up this one just because it sounds like weird. There are these two women who are living together. Every night, Maggie and Nina have dinner together. When they're finished, Nina helps Maggie back to her room in the attic and into the heavy chain that keeps her there. Because there's like some history between these women and she's being punished. I don't know, it sounds very strange. Then I have The Hunting Party by Lucy Foley. And this takes place in the Scottish wilderness, and we have like that group of characters that Lucy Foley always does. The beautiful one, the golden couple, the volatile one, the new parents, the quiet one, the city boy, the outsider. One of these friends is a murderer and one won't make it out alive. A little generic, but it sounds fun. Then I've got a Harlan Coben, The Boy from the Woods. There are a few Harlan Cobens that I'm interested in, and this one has that pitch that I love that's like 30 years ago. Dun, dun, dun. Is so this guy named Wilde who 30 years ago was found as a boy living feral in the woods, and now current day there is a teenage girl who's gone missing under similar circumstances, or they have something in common, and he's been tasked to find out what happened to her. Then we've got Eileen by Otessa Moshfegh, which is about a young woman working as a secretary at a boys' prison, and there's something going on with her and a coworker. Her affection for Rebecca pulls her into complicity in a crime that surpasses her wildest imaginations. I just think that sounds interesting. Another friendship, well, are they friends? Maybe they're lovers. This is Temper by Lane Fargo. It's a story about two women. They each have a twisted relationship with this man, and then I think they're gonna end up on a revenge mission together. Next up, I have Keep You Close by Lucy Whitehouse. Read one thing from her before. We're still in the stack of authors I read one thing from. This is about old friends and dark secrets. We have an artist who falls to her death. Everyone says it's a tragic accident, but her closest friend knows better. And she won't rest until she discovers the truth about her friend's death. I've read that plot 100 times. But like, is this gonna be a winner? It could be. And then another story about dark friendship is The Swap by Robin Harding. And this is about two women who decide to swap husbands for the night. One of them is having fertility issues. I believe, or I'm assuming, she gets pregnant, and then there's understandably a lot of drama between the couples. Then I have these ones that I guess I didn't categorize specifically as friends or family. They're just something else. So we have The Burning Girls, another CJ Tudor, and this is about a remote village and a reverend and a mystery because 30 years ago 2 teenage girls disappeared without a trace. And now we have this man who's new to town and like trying to uncover the mystery, I guess. Then I have 9 Perfect Strangers by Leanne Moriarty, which some of these books I'm sure like could go into different categories. I know Leanne Moriarty isn't like intense mystery thriller, it's more just like social dynamics, but I think there is some mysteries involved. So we have 9 people who get together at a health resort, all for different reasons, and then they all come to like want to escape the situation for reasons. The only reason I even have this is because it's a TV show and I want to watch it. So that's my thoughts on that. This is Mrs. McGinty's Dead by Agatha Christie, which I honestly don't know why I'm holding on to. I bought it for a video. I think it's because it was full price that I'm just like, I can't get rid of it. I canceled the video. I talked about it in one of my canceled videos. And this is about a woman named Mrs. McGinty, and then she dies. And naturally, this detective is going to find out what happened. Should I read this? Do I have a reason, being me in this time in the world, in my life, do I have a reason to read that? Tell me. And then lastly, for like standalone thriller mysteries from authors I've read, And Now She's Gone by Rachel Housel Hall. This is an ARC I found at the thrift store. And this is about a woman named Gray who's reluctant to track down a woman who may not want to be found. Isabel has a lot of secrets, she's abandoning everything to survive, and it's a cat and mouse game between these 2 women. And then lastly for this section, I have a couple sequels. So one of them I will definitely read one day. I started this and then abandoned it, but I do want to come back to it. The first book in the series is called The Lost Ones by Sheena Kamal. The second one is It All Falls Down, and I think this is the third one, No Going Back. I don't think I missed anything in the series, and I do believe it's a trilogy. So we're following Nora Watts. She's had a complicated past, and now she's been tasked in the first book with tracking down a missing girl who happens to be the girl that she gave birth to and then was adopted. I want to read more because this is set like where I live, and that definitely intrigues me. And of all the kind of detective-y stories that I've read, I am enjoying the setting and the characters, so I do plan to continue. And then I have Do Not Disturb by A.R. Torr, and I was pretty sure I had both of the sequels to The Girl in 6E, but I don't know where the other one is, which is confusing because I cleaned out my entire closet. Oh, just kidding. I was sitting on it. Okay. I have If You Dare and Do Not Disturb. Don't know what order they're in. Barely remember The Girl in 6E. This is one that I'm holding on to with the understanding that I'm going to need to reread that first book first. And that's probably why I haven't continued, because it seems ambitious. To like, rereading a mystery is never something that sounds like a good time, but I need to remember what's even going on, because the first book we follow a cam girl and she like traps herself inside because she like wants to murder people, and then she leaves, and then something. But I bought both of these like immediately after reading that, so I know that I was motivated, but I couldn't tell you any characters or plot points. Okay, deep breath. Now we have the second stack, which is authors. This is where I need more of your help, because you could convince me to read any of these and I'd be like, yeah, you're right, because I've read from those authors before and I know they're not like awful, most likely. But this stack, like, I need some guidance because I've never read from these authors. Like, I don't know if these books are the greatest thing I'll ever read or if they're trash. So let's begin again with a stack of domestic-y ones, husband and wife vibes. This one's called As Long as We Both Shall Live by Joanne Chaney. This is one of the most recent ones that I've added to my TBR, just because it's such a short synopsis and that intrigues me. We have a married couple who goes on a hiking trip to rekindle their romance, and only one of them comes back alive. Like, yeah, that's exactly what I want to read. Then I have Alice's Island by Daniel Sanchez Arevalo, and this is about a woman whose husband died, and she goes back to like his small island hometown because she thinks for some reason that will help her unravel the mystery. And then she just like becomes friends with everyone there and integrates herself into this community, and like, I don't know what else, but something about that intrigued me. Stranger in the Lake by Kimberly Bell, I was considering for the book club like last year. So am I still interested in reading it just on my own? I don't know. This is about a woman married to a wealthy widower, Paul. One day she discovers a young woman's body floating exactly where Paul's first wife tragically drowned. So like, who's responsible? I love a water-based mystery, but like, is this a good one? Is it twisty? Is it good? Lying in Wait by Liz Nugent is one that I've considered getting rid of a couple times, just being honest. I don't know if I trust what this author's gonna do with this story, so you can let me know. A husband and wife utterly devoted to their son Lawrence, who later it describes as being overweight and mercilessly bullied. But he's clever and knows something is very wrong with his parents. And then it talks about a mystery involving his parents and what they were doing with a drug-addled prostitute late at night on a deserted stretch of the Strand near Dublin. I guess she turned up dead, and like, where's it gonna go? Next, this stack of more domestic-y, more family-oriented stories than just husband-wife dynamics. This one's called The Window by Amelia Brunskill, and this is really just like, I had one friend who said that this had such a good twist, but now it's been so long that I've had it that I'm like, would this twist hold up like current day? And this is about Anna and Jess, who are identical twins, but they're totally different. Then Anna falls to her death and Jess says it's an accident, but people don't believe her. And where was Anna going? Who was she meeting? Were they lying to each other? Twin dynamics. Is it good? This one Rob bought for me. It's called The Night She Went Missing by Kristen Bird, and it is a domestic suspense about loyalty and deceit in a tight-knit Texas community. We have Emily, who is last seen leaving a party with Alex, a football player with a bad reputation. Now I think all the mothers of these children are frenemies, and they are starting to ask questions of their children of what really happened the night that girl went missing. Next up, I have Your Life is Mine by Nathan Ripley. Actually, I should probably mention there is a good chunk that were sent to me by publishers, ones that I didn't request, which happens all the time, and I donate a lot of the books that come in like that, but there are some that I hold on to. This is one of them. This is one of the books that seems to be about a cult, and I think I need to do like a deep dive video on cult books, but I don't want to read too many cult books back to back, so now I don't really know what I'm doing. But it's about an up-and-coming filmmaker who has distanced herself from this notorious killer and cult leader. Then she finds out her mother has been murdered. She goes back to her childhood home, and she starts to suspect that this cult, even though the leader is gone now or dead, like it's having a revival. So she needs to investigate that. Next up, I have The Chain by Adrienne McKinty, which is one I picked up for a video and then haven't read yet. But a lot of you tell me I'm gonna like this. So of this stack, I feel like it's one that I would probably prioritize. And this is about like a chain of phone calls and murders. It's like a game kind of thing where mothers get a phone call like making them go kidnap another child in order to get their kidnapped child back, and it's just this big cycle. It sounds like it could be a really wild time. So I want to read that. Next up, I have Watch Me Disappear by Janelle Brown. This is one I've gone back and forth. Like, it's just the covers, okay? If you put water on the cover of a thriller, I'm probably gonna buy it for $3.99 at Value Village. I think what people have told me is this isn't the most mysterious or thrilling book. It's more just like a woman like learning things about herself. But it starts out with a character who was on a solo hike and vanished from the trail, body never found. But then her daughter starts having visions of her mother still alive, and they embark on the truth together. So what, is it the daughter just like finding out things about herself? Or is it a good mystery? I don't know, but I know it was in some people's book clubs, so I'm sure a lot of you have read it. So you can tell me. If you know my reading taste well, then tell me the truth. Then I have The Push by Ashley O'Drain, which I don't need your help deciding because I know all of you will tell me to read this, but I don't feel confident in it. It's a psychological drama about motherhood. It sounds kind of exhausting to read, so I just need to be in the right mindset. We're following Blythe, who has a baby named Violet. She can't find a connection to her daughter. Then they have a son named Sam, and she has a natural maternal connection. And like, it all sounds really dry, but people tell me it's got a great twist, or like there's something really cool about it. And it was one of the most common like favorites of people from last year. So I know I need to read it. I also feel similarly about this. I've had this recommended to me a lot, and it was in a lot of people's like favorites lists. It's called A Nearly Normal Family by M.T. Edverson. It is a legal thriller, which I want to read more of. It's about a horrific crime. 18-year-old Stella stands accused of the brutal murder of a man. Her father's a pastor, her mother's a criminal defense attorney, and they have to find their moral compass as they defend their daughter while trying to understand why she's a suspect. And then I have a couple YA thrillers that I don't know if I should even give a go. This one is called I Killed Zoe Spanos by Kit Frick, and it's about, I think it's a revenge story. There's the disappearance of Zoe Spanos, a local girl, and then we have a new girl in town named Anna who bears a striking resemblance to her, and Anna is suddenly charged with manslaughter when 2 months later Zoe's body is found. Then I have The Black Coats by Colleen Oakes, and this is about a secret society called the Black Coats, another revenge story. Our main character has been invited to join them. She's gonna get justice for her cousin Natalie, whose killer went free. And then I have She's Too Pretty to Burn by Wendy Hurd, which I am holding on to until I read the source material, The Picture of Dorian Gray, because this is inspired by it. And then moving on to the rest of my adult thrillers, I think these are less like family oriented, or at least less about like the actual dynamics of the family and more so about like the mysterious things happening. So we have The Water Cure, which is about 3 sisters, but I don't really know the tone of it. They're on this isolated island. Their father died, but he kept them there to like keep them away from men. But then some men end up showing up on the island, and it says it's another psychological cat and mouse game. I have Are You Sleeping by Kathleen Barber. This is about an investigative reporter who sets off a medium firestorm with a podcast. She's opening or reopening a case of this woman who I also think we're following, the death of her father. And then I think current day, that woman's mother is also dead. Somehow I'm assuming these things are linked and these women are going to like both be narrators or meet up or something. I just know it's about a podcast. That's the only reason it's on my shelf. Then I have The Innocent Wife by Amy Lloyd. And I know this sounds like it's going to be a domestic thriller because it has wife in the title. But basically there's this man 20 years ago arrested for the brutal murder of a young girl, and now he's a subject of a true crime documentary. Then there's this woman who's obsessed with him and is like writing letters to him while he's in prison. This one is Perfect Days by Raphael Mointz, and people tell me I'm gonna like this. It is about a girl who gets kidnapped. This man is working on a screenplay called Perfect Days, and he becomes obsessed with this woman. They go on this long road trip together, and it says it's a psychological thriller set in Rio de Janeiro. This one is Out by Natsuo Kirino. This one is set in Japan, and it's about the brutal murder of a woman's abusive husband, and she seeks the help of her co-workers to dispose of the body and cover up her crime. Next up is a longer one. I think it's more like literary thriller. Either way, I thought I'd put it here. A Brief History of 7 Killings by Marlon James, which covers the attempted murder of Bob Marley. So in this, he's recreating the dangerous and unstable time, deftly exploring the lives of a bunch of characters: gunmen, drug dealers, one-night stand CIA agents, even ghosts over the course of 30 years. Next up, I have The Mary Shelley Club by Goldie Moldovsky, and this is about another like secret society at a school. I probably should have put this in the YA section. My bad. This was almost selected as the Literally Did book club pick last like November, and it's about a girl named Rachel starting at Manchester Prep School. The society of students put on these like prank wars, and Rachel gets involved in the competition, and then it takes a life and it gets way darker than she ever anticipated. Next up, I have Before She Was Found by Heather Gudenkauf, who I have an anticipated read from her for this year, but I saw this at the thrift store, so I grabbed it. And this is about a group of friends, an ordinary sleepover, Ouija boards and movies and talking about boys. But then an innocent game has dangerous consequences. You know, that's just my type of pitch. One of the friends in the group is found like bloody and close to death on these train tracks, and it's like the investigation of what happened that night, like who would have done that to her, what her friends were up to. Then I have Copycat by Alex Lake, and this one is about old friends who get back in touch with each other. We're following a woman named Sarah who has 2 Facebook profiles. So like somebody sends her a fake profile of herself, and there's something on it that like shouldn't be. I think there's photos of like the inside of her house, some really sketchy stuff, and it's somehow connected to the friend who just got in touch with her. So like this one sounds really interesting. There's a hand on the cover, which always gets me, but it sounds like it's gonna be easy to figure out the mystery. Like it's probably the friend who's responsible. Next up, I just recently bought this one. It's called Tell Me Everything by Cambria Brockman. This is about another group of friends. It's set in the first weeks of Hawthorne College. Oh, and it's also about a dangerous game. It's tough because I want to do some videos sometimes, just like I talked about with the cult thing. Like, I want to explore this idea, like, do I like this thing or not? I think I love books about games, but I rarely like them in the end. And like, I want to find a good one and I want to discuss this at length, but I don't want to read 5 books about cults all in a month, or 5 books all about a dangerous game all in a month, because then I feel like it'll skew my perspective reading too much of it. So like, how do I do the video without spoiling my thoughts? Because if like I read one a month and then I put up a video at the end of the year, it's like, you already know my thoughts in my wrap-ups every month. And do I keep those books a secret for a year that I read them? I don't know the answer. But basically there's this group of friends, there is a murder that happens, and then they all like have secrets and they probably blackmail each other. Then I've had this one for a little bit and I need to know if it's good. It's called These Women by Ivy Puchoda. It says it's an unconventional crime novel. Basically, these women refers to women on the corner, women in the club. These women who won't stop asking questions, these women who got what they deserved. And then we're following a cop who's like finding all of the ways that these women are tied together and is going to solve their crime. But I think at its heart, it's more about like society and people and like good discussions as opposed to just crime stuff, which I mean is the makings of a really good crime novel for me. I think I just talked myself into reading that soon. I own 2 books by Mindy Mejia because she keeps getting recommended to me. I haven't read either of them yet. This one is called Everything You Want Me to Be, and it's about a woman who's found brutally stabbed to death and her tragedy ripping through the fabric of her small town community. And then I also have Leave No Trace, set underwater. Probably not set underwater, but the cover is. A father and son are missing and presumed dead, but then a decade later, the son appears, exhibiting violent tendencies. Next up, I have The Lost Village by Camilla Sten. It's about a documentary filmmaker who takes her crew to this small, like, isolated community where there aren't a lot of people who live there. The people who live there often disappear, including the filmmaker's, like, entire family back in the 50s. And when her crew gets there, like, things start to go missing. There's weird, ominous vibes. Then I have A Bad Day for Sunshine by Dorinda Jones. Very different vibe because this is, like, lighthearted romance crime. It is about a sheriff and a teenage girl is missing. There's a kidnapper on the loose and she's trying to figure it all out, but also like there's this hot guy in town that she is involved with. Next up I have The Other Black Girl by Zakiya Delilah Harris, and this is about a woman in publishing, or more specifically about 2 young women, and I think they're like competing. They see each other as rivals at work, like they become kind of obsessed with each other. It says it's propulsive, darkly funny, and endlessly surprising. And then lastly, I have Death in the Family by Tessa Weggert, which is one of the few detective focused books that I'm interested in. And this is set on an island. We have an elite group of guests, and this NYPD detective is called to the private island to investigate a missing person. But she also has to like confront her past because she herself survived being abducted by a serial killer like a year ago. And that's it. Oh boy, those are all of the mystery, thriller, suspense books on my TBR shelf and in my TBR closet. And now, having gone through them all, I think I'm gonna reorganize this whole shelf once I finish filming this entire video series over the next week. I'll take all of your perspectives into account, the books that you think I should ditch or try like the first chapter of before I ditch, the ones that I should bump up to the top of my TBR that you think is kind of like falling to the wayside but you know that I would love. I will thank you in advance for your comments and your thoughts on everything that I own. So yeah, this is everything that I've hauled basically over the last 5 years of my channel and have yet to read. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next Wednesday for another installment of this series. Bye!